Om Shri Sai Ram. Welcome to the third edition of Mano Hridaya Sai. Sai, the resident of our hearts and minds. Our first speaker would be Mrs. Geeta Umesh, HOD of the Counseling Department. An ardent devotee of Bhagwan since 1963 and comes from a 5-generation family of Sai devotees. Tasked by Bhagwan to start the counseling department in 2000, she, along with her team, have done extensive research and study in integrating Swami's teachings into personal center counseling, which has resulted in the evolution of the counseling the Sai way. She has extensive experience as a caregiver to various members in the family, including her husband, Mr. Umesh Rao, when he underwent an emergency open heart surgery for the mitral valve replacement in 1998. She has made presentations at both national and international level and co-authored a book chapter on counseling the Sai way. Under the guidance of Bhagwan, she also started the Bal Vikas program as part of the Sri Satya Sai Institute of Higher Medical Sciences Samiti. Sai Ram.
Om Sai Ishwaraya Vidmahe Satyadevaya Dhimahi Tanna Sarva Prachodayat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Offering my most loving pranams at the lotus feet of Bhagwan, I wish to thank Dr. Shekhar Rao, Praveen, Subbarao, and all the organizers of Mano Hridaya Sai for giving me this opportunity on this most auspicious day of our 50th wedding anniversary to be able to share this beautiful and cherished moment spent with Swami. I would like to start my talk with a small poem, which to a great extent, in a nutshell, expresses our journey with Mother Sai. It's titled Given To. I never feel more given to than when you take from me. When you understand the joy I feel caring for you. And you know my giving isn't done to put you in my debt, but because I want to live the love I feel for you. To receive with grace may be the greatest giving. There is no way I can separate the two. When you give to me, I give you my receiving. When you take from me, I feel so given to. It has been one beautiful flow of receiving Swami's unconditional love throughout our life. We've just been receiving, and even to this day, continue receiving. For us to be here addressing and sharing these beautiful moments, it is only due to Bhagavan's divine sankalpa. A call from Dr. Shekhar Rao and Praveen on Monday asking us whether we would like to share our experiences. On our special day, our 50th wedding anniversary, Swami in 1970 performed a wedding at Vrindavan. So it was like actually Swami giving us this opportunity. My first darshan of Swami was when I was 12 years old. It was at my grand uncle's residence. The family had just then come to Swami, and we were very excited, exuberant, because the Lord was coming home. That was the way a 12-year-old mind was working. And we filled the floor with a beautiful carpet, floral carpet, and we were all asked to sit beside the carpet, the children. So when Swami stepped out of his car and entered, we were the first to receive him, sitting on the floor. And he just gazed at me, and our eyes locked. And with a smile on his face, he said, "Amy Peru, what is your name?" I knelt, making sure that I didn't touch the floral carpet. And I said, "Geeta Swami." And with a mischievous smile on his face, he said, "Amy Geeta, Bhagavad Gita, na? What Gita? Are you the Bhagavad Gita?" I didn't know what to say. And then he said, "Do you know there is another meaning for Gita?" And I kept quiet. And he said, "You just reverse the name and you become Tyagi." Now, this is a concept which never occurred to us. It was something totally new. So the word Tyagi kept haunting me ever since I was a 12-year-old. Our family, starting with my great-grandfather, Dr. M.C. Nanjan Rao, were very devoted. He was a well-known doctor, physician in Chennai, and he was closely associated with Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa's movement. So he was one of the Madras boys of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, or Swami Vivekananda, and this is a picture taken during Swamiji's visit to Chennai, and my grandfather is one of the members seated there. So our association with the Ramakrishna monks, as well as Sri Sharada Mutt, which was a ladies' wing, was quite intense during those days in the family. And so my mind went back to Swami said Tyagi, so should I become a nun in the Sharada Mutt? But he led us through a very different path altogether. He had his own plans for me, and we continued with our work and close contact. And this is a picture of my parents. Swami visited my parents' house, and one day it was a surprise visit. In fact, my mother-in-law are first cousins. My father and my mother are also first cousins. So they were all in the kitchen. My mother and mother-in-law were in the kitchen when suddenly Swami stepped into our home. He had gone to visit a site, and he said, "Let's go to Panduranga Rao's house." Neither of the ladies in the kitchen were aware that Swami had crept into the kitchen, and he was standing right behind them. And my mother was busy frying something and talking about Swami and Swami's, yesterday's darshan at Whitefield and things like that. And suddenly they turn around, and who do they see? They see Swami standing right there. And he always used to joke with my mother, because every time Swami visited either my mother-in-law's house or my granddad's house, or for that matter, our house, my mother's favorite dish used to be kurma, vegetable kurma for Swami, assuming that he enjoyed eating kurma. And so he joked with her that day saying, "What have you prepared? Yemi kurma barmana." And everyone, they just ran helter-skelter trying to find a chair for Swami. And that's the kind of excitement which used to be in the air whenever Swami used to visit our home. But along the way, there were so many lessons which he was teaching us, with just simple comments. Once we were a group of cousins, all of our sisters together, and he said, "Sarojamma and Girjamma, who are your children now?" Girjamma is my mother's sister. So he said, "Who are your children?" And immediately my mother stepped forward and she gathered us, her children, and she said, "Swami, Viru Nadi." Immediately he mocked and he said, "See, this Nadi should disappear." So that here again was a lesson. So again, going back to the Tyagi, I said, well, this is something which I should remember. We shouldn't just be petty and small-minded and think that this is mine and that is somebody else's. In a very charming way, Swami would teach us these lessons whenever he would come home. And he would sit and give discourses, and he would sit and sing bhajans, lead bhajans. And he would, interact with all of us. Such insignificant little children we were. But he would interact with each one of us as if we were such precious and cherished property of his. And those were the days when there were no schools, no colleges, started by Swami. So he used to really spend a lot of time whenever he visited homes, interacting with all of us. So then things happened and we moved on. These are the key people, my father-in-law and my mother-in-law, who also happened to be my grand-aunt, and my grand-uncle, Mr. Damodar Rao, and his wife, Srimati Padma, Professor Narendra's parents. Now, I've titled it saying Gautam's grandparents. You need to know who Gautam is first. Swami has always said, Gautam is our guru. This is Professor Narendra as well as his wife, Ushaka. Usha Akka is my husband's sister. Now, Professor Narendra was made the principal of Swami's Vrindavan campus, but it was his child who brought us to Swami. The child was named Gautam, and when he was around 4 years old, he suddenly started losing his vision. This is a picture of Gautam after he was diagnosed with demyelination of the central nervous system. Doctors didn't have an answer. Medical science had closed all its doors, saying that we can go only this far and no further. There is no cure for this illness. That's when a remote relative of the family mentioned about Bhagwan, and she said, here is a person who can create miracles. He makes lame people walk, he makes blind people see. And so, though the family came from a very scientific background, and they were still not very convinced about miracles, still they didn't have any other option. And they said, let's take a chance and see what's going on. And let's go and visit this Puttaparthi Sri Satya Sai Baba. That's what he was called as during those days. And Bhagwan had visited Chennai. That's where Professor Narendra and his parents and Gautam were living at that point. And they went to Sri Ishwar's house. And Ishwar's house was crowded and overfilled. Absolutely no place. So my uncle, Professor Narendra, he stood facing the audience, and they were all waiting for Swami to come out for darshan. And my uncle had never seen Baba before. The ladies managed to get a good place with Gautam, so they were all seated in a nice place. But my uncle had to stand. But as he was looking at the faces of the people who had come there, the devotees who had come there to have Swami's darshan, suddenly there was stillness in the air. And he looked and saw that the expression on everyone's face started changing. And poetically he described saying, it was like the sun coming out and the buds starting to blossom. That's how every devotee's face started to really brighten the moment they saw Swami. They could see Swami, but my uncle couldn't because his back was towards Swami. Then what he did was he turned around to just get a peek. And there was Swami in his orange robe. And so very soon Mr. Ishwar came running towards my uncle and he said, Swami has called you in for an interview. The family didn't know what an interview meant because that was the first time we came to Swami. And the entire family was called inside. Their faces naturally was very troubled because the child was afflicted with a disease which nobody could actually help. And finally, when they had the interview with Swami, and the entire family of all the 4 grandparents as well as Gautam and the parents stepped out, they just had a big smile on their face. I often wonder what exactly could have happened and what did happen inside that interview room to bring about this world of sea change in each one of them. That was the power of love which Swami had. And he never allowed us to lose hope at any point. Swami's loving words filled the family with hope and positive energy. He helped us understand the difference between disease and illness. The family started to heal at a much deeper level. Vijay Sai was not cured of his disease, but was completely healed from his illness. Multiple divine visits Swami made to our homes in Chennai, in Bangalore, and regular darshans, Sparshan and Sambhashan at Vrindavan and Prashant Nilayam helped not only Vijay Sai, but also the entire family to heal. Now, this was another big learning for me in my growing years. Because here was something, as far as Gautam was concerned, Swami named him Vijay Sai. He said he's going to be the victorious one. So in our small minds, we thought Gautam is going to become totally cured. But actually what Swami meant was another very big picture, a much larger picture. He said he's going to become one with the universe and one with God. And that's what he meant at that point. Anyway, coming back to this feeling of gentle healing, I've always wondered, physically, Gautam's condition was only getting from bad to worse. First he lost his sight, then he lost the movement of his arms and his legs. He couldn't walk, he couldn't talk, and he was left only with the power of hearing. That's all that he was left with. But I haven't come across a happier child. I haven't come across a child who could vibrate with such energy and power of love the way Gautam, who was later on named Vijay Sai, was actually vibrating with. And this happened only because of Papa. This power of love was an understanding. And it was something which we really kind of started moving towards. And accepting what cannot be changed was beautifully brought in the minds of the family. And I think that learning, first-hand learning as a caregiver, has helped me considerably to introduce it into the Sai counseling program. It was all something which we learned directly from the Lord, how to handle difficult moments, difficult and challenging situations, and though the physical body starts to degenerate, still the mind and the spirit can stay connected with something which is pure and divine, that is the spiritual energy. And that Swami made it possible for us. So time went on and Swami suddenly decided to perform my marriage. So on 21st of May 1970, he called my father-in-law and mother-in-law and he arranged for the bride and the groom. So this was an arranged marriage, well within relatives. And this is the Mangal Sutra. He actually materialized during the marriage. And when he materialized the Mangal Sutra, he again I was in awe. Imagine having divinity standing there performing your wedding. So when Swami materialized this Mangal Sutra, he made a joke of it when my husband was tying it around my neck. He said, make sure that you tie the Mangal Sutra which I am giving you perfectly. It doesn't matter how you tie the one which you're giving her from your home. I don't know what significant meaning it had, but it kind of lightened the air around us. So there he is holding the ring in his hand so patiently, waiting for the Mangal Sutra to be tied so that he could give the ring to me and ask me to put it on my husband's. Now, the kind of humility, the kind of humanness which Swami brought into every little activity, and he was Bhagavan, he was God. And what were we? And here he is kind of blessing us with Akshada. We only had a plate full of Akshada, but when he started sprinkling this Akshada, so many jasmine started falling from his fist, all over the floor, all over us. And we don't know where the jasmine came from. Now, this marriage took place inside Swami's own bungalow in Vrindavan. Now where the present Trai stands, we had Swami's old bungalow, and the access to that bungalow for the public was very limited. But he said, I'm performing your wedding, I have selected the bride and groom, and I'm blessing this family, and I'll take care of every little detail. And that's exactly what happened. And here he's gifting me with the lamp, with the advice, be like the lamp, dispelling darkness, bring light and love into your home. And he's pulling my husband's hand out, saying, you also hold this lamp, because together you've got to start illuminating wherever you go, bringing in illumination. These may appear to be very small, insignificant things, but when I look back at the 50 years of our being married together and what Swami has put us through, every time there was suffering, every time there was a challenge, we learned something beautiful, learned a beautiful lesson, and we only expanded. And here he's blessing us, and we are offering our gratitude. And the first person he took us towards inside the bungalow was his mother. So after taking Swami's blessings, we went in and took the blessings of Mother Ishwaramma. She was familiar with our family, mainly because of my father-in-law being an eye doctor, and she had consulted with him, so she was comfortable in the company of our family. Otherwise, she came through as a very shy person, but she was so full of love, beaming with love when she blessed us both inside Swami's old bungalow. These are beautiful memories which I have of the marriage, of the wedding, of the special day, which was 21st May, 1970. Then a new chapter started in our lives. That was how he involved my father-in-law and my granduncle Damodar Rao into the organization. Because up around that time, the organization was in a very fledgling, small state, it hadn't grown to where it is today. Please go back to that picture. We have Mr. Gangadhar Shetty, Dr. Padmanabhan, and my father-in-law. And this was one of the Balavika's meetings which my father-in-law was addressing. And my father-in-law's first darshan of Swami was actually in Dr. Padmanabhan's house. They were very good friends, they were fellow Rotarians. And when Dr. Padmanabhan, as a man of science, invited my father-in-law, who was a man of science, saying, please come and just meet Bhagavan, and maybe Gautam's condition will improve. So my father-in-law happened to go there parallelly when the Madras relatives were going to Swami. So when Swami met my father-in-law, he seemed to have been full of his love, energy, and I don't think there was any looking back for my father-in-law. He kind of really dedicated his entire life to whatever Swami would want him and had planned for him to do. So one such thing was a summer camp, summer course, which takes place in Vrindavan. Dr. Padmanabhan's daughter Geeta was a good friend of mine. Now though she wasn't qualified enough to attend the summer camp because she wasn't from the particular group of students who were being selected, she desperately wanted to get in and be part of the summer course. So, of course, her family is very well known, and her father is a very good friend of my father-in-law. So Swami was actually testing my father-in-law to see what decision he would take, because he had given him a sheaf of badges saying, distribute it to whomsoever you want. But make sure that these things go to the deserving candidates, and they all should come from the stream of colleges. Now this girl was still in high school then, not in college. But she came and said, Uncle, please, can I also come and attend the summer course? My father did not give her a badge. This was what Swami was testing him with. At the same time, he was testing Geeta for her fervor and for her desire to be part of this. So Swami called my father-in-law and he said, Ichava, did you give the badge to Padmanabhan's daughter? And my father-in-law said, no, Swami, she's still in school. And then my father-in-law, Swami looked at my father-in-law and said, हाँ, manchit जैसा वो. He smiled. He was very happy with this reply because he'd followed the discipline which he expected of a state president to follow. At the same time, he goes to Geeta and he says, here, you take this badge. I'm giving you the badge, so you are qualified to come and attend the summer course. These are all little things, little tests he puts us all through to see whether we pass his test or not. Because very easily my father-in-law could have given her a badge, but he didn't. So that was the metal, that was the kind of quality he was looking for in people who had to serve him. The next slide. This is our family. My husband, me, my son-in-law Pankaj, my son Vidyadhar, my daughter-in-law Shumal, my daughter Ahladini, and my niece Vidulata, Professor Narendra's daughter, and my 4 grandchildren, Akhand, Veda, Meda, and Anushka, the youngest one. Now, each one of them are involved in some form of service or other. Shumal and Pankaj do not come from they've never seen Swami before the marriage. So they came to Swami's fold under Swami's protective umbrella after they got married. But I can't think of anybody who follows Swami's values and Swami's teachings the way these 2 children follow in our home. Now from this family, and this is of course my son, my niece and my daughter. My son and my niece are Swami students. My daughter, though she didn't study in Swami's institute, he always used to call her his student. So I don't know what that qualification means. Maybe she does follow Swami's values and that's the reason why he calls her that. So this is the 4th generation of our family of Sai devotees. Go on to the next slide. Now I come to this gift from Swami, given to me in 2000. So now every time this Tyagi part of it kept playing in the background in my mind, and I started to understand what Swami meant by saying Tyagi, as far as I'm concerned, I guess, is not to give up everything, because he was getting me more and more involved in samsara, not away from samsara into sannyasa. But through the samsara, he taught me how to expand my heart at every point. And I think that's one definition of Tyagi, letting go of pettiness, letting go and growing beyond and drawing a much larger circle of vibration, much larger circle of love, the energy of love with which he is always vibrated. And that's how we started the counseling department here, because Swami said, go take care of my patients. And I was wondering what qualification I had to take care of his patients. But I really knew that I had this energy of love given to me, gifted to me by Swami. And I could definitely give love to everybody, be loving towards people. And that's how this whole department started, by just me stepping into this hospital. And in 2000, why I have marked the year 2000 is because in December 2000, December 1st, I turned 50. So it was 50th gift from Swami to me. And this hospital, everything was ready and they were kind of preparing. A number of patients had started coming in and they were quite helpless and anxious. So that's what Swami wanted me to do. Meet with them, talk to them, kind of, put them at ease. And that's how this whole thing started. And we moved on from when they got admitted, I started seeing them at bedside. So the first group was under Dr. Safaya, the second under Dr. A.S. Hegde. Under Dr. Safaya, we were still at a very fledgling state. We were still in the process of trying to figure out which way we wanted to go. But I think when Dr. Hegde became the director, my husband had also joined in within a month's time. Swami sent him saying, see, you are a patient, you have been operated upon, you'll be one of the best counselors. So he kind of sent him to this hospital. So once a week, my husband used to come and see patients. But under Dr. Hegde's thing is when my husband did a lot of research. And in 2006, we started training the first batch of trainees through the spiritual wing of the Satya Sai organization. We kind of got volunteers and it was a beautiful journey from then onwards. So more expansion of the heart, so more of the Tyagi spirit, not just to be content with your little family, but to grow beyond your little family, to embrace everybody and to share things with everybody. So then came Dr. Swarna Bharadwaj, and that's when we opened our own counseling department area. Up until then, we were having desks in the open air near the dome area for everybody to see, for everybody to hear. But when this happened, it was really a beautiful space given to us, gifted to us by the hospital, by Swami, because we were able to then segregate and keep a separate space for people to just come and sit in silence, for them to just sit and connect to the God of their choice, for them to sit and practice the therapy which was taught to them, which was actually the body relaxation technique, and for them to kind of just settle themselves before they got admitted. This could take place only because of the department. It was Dr. Swarna Bharadwaj who made that happen. And the next director, of course, was our Dr. Sundaresh. And under his guidance, we started a program of selection for the nursing students. Because this counseling was taught to all the nursing students when they came to the 4th year as part of the AHV program. But they were facing a few problems about the quality of students coming into, though they were qualified and they were very good with academics. They wanted a screening process. So that was a screening process which, based on Dr. Mia's paper, I managed to create that for the nursing college, and Dr. Sundaresh introduced that during his duration as the director. And now, of course, we have Dr. Shekhar Rao with us as our present director, and this is a group of counselors we have with us. And under Dr. Shekhar Rao, there is a lot of things which needs to be developed, and all our directors have been extremely supportive of us and of our work. And I'm very, very sure we have Dr. Shekhar Rao's support as well. Because now with the pandemic, this is a team, the Sai family. Each one of them are feeling very bad that they're not able to come and offer this service here at the hospital now, mainly because of the coronavirus. So what we have done is I have started them all off on training on the telephone to be able to talk to patients. Every day I take the Monday team separately, the Tuesday team separately. So 6 days a week for 1 hour we have sessions, training them, voice modulation, and giving them a toolkit. So these are things which are is in the background. We have been working on it, and also we are still staying connected, though we are in our own homes, through a bhajan learning session. So everybody is learning something and staying connected, and we're all praying to Swami to guide us forward as to when we'll be able to come back into the department and offer our service. But in the meantime, I'm sure Dr. Shekhar Rao is going to guide us as to how to move forward with the telecounseling program. And this is one of our counselors, Saru Anaya, who has written this about the pandemic. She says, this pandemic has brought to light what the universe needed in many ways: to pause. We at the counseling department represent a kind of cushion and comfort to the patients, unable to facilitate the strength and empathy that the patients need as a kind of unfulfillment experienced presently. Physically not being able to visit the hospital for seva has brought to reality the power of seva and benefits of reaching out to the patients so much more. I feel so much more connected to this calling, and the meaning I'm beginning to see is a blessing of Swami in seva. This is from Saru. And we have another counselor, Jaya Tarimeti, who has beautifully written this poem. She says, until the time is right, like a chisel waiting for the sculptor, a pen waiting for the writer, a spade waiting for the gardener, I am a brush waiting for my master to hold me in his gentle hand, to dip me in his vivid palette, to enhance me in its lively colors, and use me in his skilled strokes. For blessed will be to make a dot on his canvas and willfully be myself in his divine masterpiece. So this is a poem which just came to her after her Bhagavad Gita class. She says she doesn't know how she wrote this, but at the back of her mind, we are missing the seva, this very dear seva, because every counselor has now understood the meaning of expansion. Swami has said, my life is my message, expansion is my life. Through the seva, we have been able to experience that expansion. by just interacting with patients who are total strangers and just giving them this energy of love and understanding. We have grown. We have grown in the path of expansion, the vibratory field of expanding with love. And the seva has been very meaningful to each one of us. And I'm sure Swami will create a path for us. And I just conclude my talk and my offering to Swami on this special day with this prayer. Tvameva mata cha pita tvameva, tvameva bandhu cha sakha tvameva, tvameva vidya dravinam tvameva, tvameva sarvam mama deva deva, tvameva sarvam mama sai deva. Swami is everything to us. We don't know any other life apart from Swami. And I wish to conclude with Khalil Gibran's quote, "Rise together with the giver as on wings, for to be over mindful of your debt is to doubt his generosity, who has the free-hearted earth for mother and God for father." He's the constant giver, and we just need to learn to fine-tune ourselves to be a tiny instrument in his big mission. And that's what we are all grooming ourselves towards. Jai Sai Ram.
Our second speaker would be Sri Umesh Rao. Belonging to a family of Sai devotees, he is an ardent devotee of Bhagwan since 1969. He volunteers in the hospital as a senior consultant and mentor in the counseling department. An electrical engineer from IISc Bangalore, he continued his MS from United States and has extensive experience both in India and in the United States before Bhagwan blessed him to start his own company, Lotus, in 1977. Currently, he is the chairman of Lotus Energy Systems, specializing in acoustics and noise control. Along with his wife, under Bhagwan's guidance, he helped develop the unique Sai counseling program at the Sri Satya Sai Institute of Higher Medical Sciences, Whitefield. He has made presentations at both national and international level and co-authored a book chapter on counseling the Sai way, which has been published by Springer Publications. Sai Ram.
Om Sai Ram, offering my most loving, humble pranams at the lotus feet of our beloved Lord. Sai Ram to all of you. Let me first thank Dr. Shekhar Rao and all of the staff of the Mano Hridaya Sai program for having given us this opportunity, and what a wonderful way that Swami has enabled us to share our thoughts of what has gone by 50 years since he brought us together. My journey with Sai started in the year 1969. Gita shared with you a lot of the background that our family had been experiencing with Swami ever since they came in touch with Swami in 63-64. But I, unfortunately, was not part of that group because I was away in the US. I'd been there in 61 and I didn't return till the end of 68. And in those days, communication with the US was literally impossible. And so what we could glean from learning about Swami was only by letters that we got and a very rare phone call. And there were no visits by the family, nor our going there as frequently as you see happening today. So when I came to India in end of 68 and I first saw Swami, I was totally and so to say a green, uninitiated in Swami's teachings and Swami's way of his love, his philosophy. So, but there was deep within me always a yearning to learn about him, because ever since 64 that the family had come to him, I was amazed that the entire family had been taken over by Swami. So it was in 69 that when I came and I had my first darshan of Swami, it was at a bhajan session that in one of the devotees' house in Bangalore, and my father introduced me to Swami. I was sitting near the threshold of the house, and I just looked up to him, and it was a turning point in my life, so to say. I've never had such a riveting look at me, and which held me for about 15 to 30 seconds, with such deep love. And all I could say was, I have come home. And that was the turning point for me in my life. And immediately Swami then went into the niceties of materializing Vibhuti and saying, Bangaru, when did you come? And then gave me a Pad Namaskar and moved on. But that moment was really a changing moment in my life. And then next, I started observing my father. And I think by now you would have known the iconic figure that you see in that patient-doctor session that Swami has enacted. The patient on the left side is none other than my father, Dr. M.B. Sundar Rao, a well-known ophthalmic surgeon. And above all, he was an ardent devotee of Swami from 1962 till he passed away in 1994. He has served Swami in various capacities. Now, just imbibing Swami and getting the feel of Swami's love, it was always in the back of my mind that what I'm looking for in life was somehow not being fulfilled, even though I'd spent a good 8 years in the US with all the worldly comforts, worldly pleasures, in the sense of owning material things, an excellent job and so on, but still there was some yearning within me. And that yearning was, I think I missed the connect with God and perhaps love. And that has been the story of my journey so far. So to continue on to this journey, 1969 onwards, events that happened in 1969 was, Swami was, I think Gita explained to you that very many times that Swami used to visit our houses, and sometimes after giving intimation, but sometimes just dropping in. And I recollect we were living in Alsur Road that time in a big bungalow. One time Swami dropped into the house without any announcing his arrival, and I was at the door, opened the door, and there he was. And immediately he put his hand on my mouth and clamped my mouth shut, because he wanted to go in and surprise the others. And so that was a beautiful moment. Another moment that I cherish with Swami is the same bungalow in 1969 when he visited. This was in 1968, I think he had opened the Anantapur Women's College, and Swami had some ideas of wanting to have a similar institution in Bangalore. So he had come to see a plot opposite our house, a large plot, and so he had come with his team of Colonel Jogarao and others. And what Swami did was he got down at the gate of that house and then asked them to go ahead, and he said, I will wait in Dr. Sundar Rao's house across. And then he took me and he caught my hand and we crossed the road. The Alsur Road, which is a fairly wide road, about 40 or 50 feet wide. And the thing that always struck me was, here he said, this is the first time, Umesh, that I'm crossing a public road in Bangalore. And to me at that time, I thought I was doing this great thing, holding his hand, and he was holding my hand very tightly as we crossed. And then we went inside. But at that time, it seemed to be such a small thing. But if I look at it now, it was really, I say, that was when he took my hand And he said, I'm taking you across not the sea of samsara, the equivalent, the sea of this road, to show you that I am going to be with you in this journey. See, it never struck you, and we take all his behavior, so many times we mistake it as ordinary human behavior, because we think he is human and we treat him as a human. But lurking behind that is divinity. And any number of times he has shown his omniscience, his omnipresence, and his omnipotence. And of course, as Gita said, we got married in 1970, and then life went into the usual samsara stage, grihastha stage, and we went through that phase. And Swami was a constant companion, holding our hand, always being there for us, and always, he silently would take care of us. One of the things that happened during this period, following Swami's, our marriage, was that I used to work for a corporate company in Bangalore when I first came, and somehow I was not happy about that at all, because I had imbibed so much of Swami's, the Sai culture, the human values, and a certain way of how you do business, how you, had to be love, and how you had to run an inclusive way of looking at society. And all of this I found was just a farce. Partly in the US I saw it, and the same thing was happening, and I was very unhappy. So in 1977, Swami said, okay, since you're unhappy, you can start a company on your own. And that is how Lotus came into being. But Swami has got his own ways of doing things. And in 77, there were no venture capitalists or any financial backers. And it was a struggle to get a company on your own going. But Swami made those arrangements. Believe it or not, I had left the United States 10 years, although I had a green card and all that. I just surrendered everything and came away to India, never had any contact. But one fine day I get a phone call from my former boss asking me to come back for a job that he had. I said, look, I can't give you an answer. I have to, I've got other things going. Yeah, but please call me back same time tomorrow night. So I came to Vrindavan with my father, met Swami, and told Swami about this. And typically, I think in anybody else, they would have thought it's a great thing to go back and to rejoin. Swami looked at me and he said, yes, you go back and you join them. It'll be good for you, but only on condition that you don't change your base from Bangalore. You make as many trips as they want for the work over there. And so that was what I started between 78 to 83 for 5 years. Swami had me shuttling back and forth, which of course is a very common thing today for the IT sectors and so on, because that's the way work is. But for me, that was totally new, and my family adjusted to that beautifully. We made some trips, but Swami wanted me to do it this way. So life moved on. Swami's grace was always there. And then in 1983-84, Swami wanted me to build a house, which was always very puzzling to me, because we had our own house which he had done the Griha Pravesham in 1969. But for whatever reason, he was after me and he said, have you selected a site? Then he got the site approved, and then he approved the design of the house. And in 1984, soon after the inauguration of Tri Vrindavan, within a month after that, he came and did the Griha Pravesham for our house. And you can see how involved he was with the way in which he interacted with everybody there. And we got some nice pictures of Swami interacting with the group. And of course, lighting that lamp. That same lamp is the one that he gifted to us for our wedding, which is still now with us in our house in Aarti Nagar. So these are some of the things that Swami, made you believe that he is in the human form, he is divinity, but yet he was always with us. Now moving on from there, life took a little bit of a different meaning, because 85 onwards, children grew up, they had to be settled, lot of miracles happened during that period. Time doesn't permit you to share all of those. But anyway, Swami made sure that everybody got settled well in life. He performed my daughter's wedding, blessed it, and then I lost my parents in 94, both of them, which was a sad thing in the family. And we also lost Professor Narendra. But life moved on with Swami being there to help us guide. And in 1998, Swami gave a real test for us in our family to understand what his protection means. Generally I was of good physical health, but towards the end of the late 90s, I was detected with a murmur in the heart, and they said there was a mild leakage in my mitral valve at Prashantigram Hospital, but just blood pressure and would control it. And so I didn't pay much attention to it. 1998, I ran into an emergency situation where I needed an emergency valve operation. I had developed pulmonary edema, and Swami, I'd been to Swami just the day or 2 days previous, and he just looked at me and had smiled and spoken as usual, and then gave me a packet of vibhuti, blessed me and sent me back, without saying anything about what was going to happen. So when we came back to Bangalore, and only Geeta and I were there because my children were still in the US and on their way back. And so this was suddenly something that hit us, and I had to go through this surgery. And Swami, we wouldn't get a surgery done till Swami approved of the surgery. So we rushed to the hospital, and this was at Malya Hospital in Bangalore, and because that's where the cardiologist was working. And they said, okay, if you want to wait till Swami, that's up to you. But the surgeon was very, very adamant, and he said, you're in a very serious condition and you need to be operated upon immediately. But both me and my Geeta said, unfortunately, whatever may be the consequences, we must need Swami's approval before we go ahead. Swami gave his approval the very next morning when he came out for darshan at 6 in Puttaparthi. My sister had been there, and she called her. And at 9 o'clock, I was, sent to the operating theatre. The beauty of it was Swami's okay coincided with Malya's top-notch valve repair surgeon or valve replacement surgeon, Dr. Jairaj, from an ex-CMC Vellore person, being able to do the operation. And that made such a huge difference in what Swami had arranged. And the lessons that we learned from Swami was, if you truly believe that you have surrendered, show it to me. And that is what I call and that is what had happened to us during this entire period. Without batting an eyelid in our family, I had given up my job at Kirloskars. I had come back from the US saying, now I'm at Swami's feet, he will take care. My same thing happened to my brother-in-law, Professor Narendra, when Swami asked him to become the principal. He immediately resigned from his job in Chennai and came over the very next week. Now with this background, Swami felt that I was ready to take up the next phase of my life, to be able to serve in his hospital in Whitefield. So this is where the journey started from 2001 onwards, by being associated with the counseling department. So in 2001, we started with our journey with the counseling department, and my work there was slightly different from what Geeta had and her team of counselors have been doing. And there was constant guidance from Swami about what he was expecting. And I was beginning to get the flavor of the entire, of the hospital itself, being a tertiary level hospital, which is different from the general hospitals that Swami had been running till then in Bangalore. And that meant that whatever the counseling department as a complementary therapy should have to be matched to Western standards of medicine to make the whole thing look, give it that mark. And this was what my mission there was, to bring it around, visiting, researching in that area, what would be the more, Swami, there was really no specific need for that because Swami's teachings were very, very highly in depth that we could put up the program by ourselves. But I think we are all aware of how much validation means in a Western system of medicine, which we had rightly globally modeled medical treatment upon. So what we did was we visited all the centers, and in 2008 we went to the University of East Anglia, where there was a world conference at which we were able to make a presentation of counseling the Sai way. And you see the professors who were associated with that, Dr. Mia Risen, Dr. Brian Thoms were so stalwarts. And by that time, counseling the Sai way in its principle of bringing God into the picture, adding the spiritual dimension, spirituality, awareness, integration into counseling had already become an accepted practice in medicine in the West. Only the problem with them was that they could not implement it because of their limitations in their system of medical delivery, the insurance systems and other regulations. Now in 2009, we decided to test our own hospitals, this thing, to bring in and conduct an international conference on spirituality in healthcare. And Swami's blessings, and Swami said, just go ahead. And at that time, Dr. Hegde was the director, and we got his full support. And to the extent that we didn't have a proper place to conduct a conference, an international conference, and in discussion with Hegde, and Hegde checked with Swami and the medical trust, and they said, you can put up whatever you want as long as you put it up on a temporary structure. And that was how Dhanvantari Auditorium came into being. It is still a temporary structure that can be dismantled at any time. That was what was done. And it has been there since then. And you can see the speakers that came in there. And I would like you to see that besides Dr. Hegde, we have another director in there to my left. And Dr. Shekhar Rao, he made a beautiful presentation also. And it's all documented in our book that we brought out. So we had a wonderful collection of speakers from Duke University, Karolinska. And Karolinska, I think if I had shown you in the previous slide, Dr. Hans Wigsel spent an hour with us, and he chairs the Nobel Prize distribution or selection committee, and he had visited the hospital once. And when he heard about counseling the Sai Way program, he said, you people are very selfish. You should share this with the rest of the world, publish it and spread it out. This is what medicine needs. So, but everything is up to Swami to do that. And so these were some of the great things that we could accomplish. And moving on from 2009 to 2010, another hallmark year for us, 2010, was the Parthi Yatra, which was, again, truly a very memorable trip for the counselors, because Swami was extremely happy seeing the good work done by the counselors. I was showing him at the Yatra, that one picture on the right that shows you the booklet or the document that I had taken with each counselor expressing their own feelings about participating in this counseling seva. Mind you, there were 30 of them, all voluntary service, and they felt that they owed it to Swami to be able to be serving here as counselors. And then Swami patiently looked at it, saw all the counselors. In the first picture, you see the counselor at the background there. And then 2010, I suppose, Swami had his own plans for the following years. And as a mark of his appreciation of the counseling department, he gifted me with a ring, which, it was more meant for the counseling department and for the counseling work that is being done there. And that was his blessing to us and to each one of the counselors on that memorable trip. The last thing that we did in 2010 was Swami enabled us to make a trip to the US to make a presentation at the Mecca of medicine in the US, the Mayo Clinic. And this was a little different from our other presentations in the sense that this was not something that we interacted and went there. This was a conference on spirituality and health across the lifespan, which Mayo Clinic Spiritual Care Research Conference, which was being conducted every alternate year. And they would typically call for abstracts, and it went through the process of selection. And when I discussed it with Dr. Hegde, he said, submit, yes. Submitted the abstract, and of course with Swami's grace there is no need to say it got selected, and the good news came and that we could go. And that is how the Mayo conference happened. And even in that, there was a little miracle that I want to share with you very quickly, is normally all our trips to the US and abroad, Swami has somehow made it happen with our own funds. Now, when it came to Mayo Clinic, the Mayo conference trip, we ran into a little cash flow snag with our company, with some customers not being able to give us payments in time. Now, we needed about 3 to 5 lakhs for the trip, and we didn't want to go around asking anybody for that. And he said, Swami will arrange for it. And lo and behold, just about after I'd made all the reservations, everything about 3 weeks earlier, I get a phone call out of the blue from a customer whom we had served 10 years back and who owed us about 5 lakhs money, and he had just vanished from the scene. He had run away to Dubai. And he shows up again back in Kerala, and he says, Umesh, I don't know whether you remember me. My name is George, and I bought this stuff from you, and I was not able to pay it, and I would like to return that money to you. Now, somebody returning money to you after 10 years, and that too in the business world, is something that is unheard of. It is purely Swami doing it. And that came in, and that is how we were able to go to Mayo conference without anybody knowing what had happened behind the scenes. That was Swami. So that is where we went, and it was a wonderful trip. It was a wonderful reception. And when I came back, Swami, this was possibly my last thing with Swami in January of 2011, if I'm not mistaken, when Swami took that completed presentation, because Mayo has got a very rigid method of evaluating each presentation, and I wanted to show that which came later. And Swami saw that and is so very happy with what the reception was. Now, so that was the saga, which now still continues from 2011 onwards, right now to the present date. And all I can thank Swami is God and love. These are the two factors that he brought into our lives. And God to me is especially very, very true because it relates so much to the healthcare sector. And I've always maintained this, that when a person gets ill, there are two things that a patient and his family do. They rush to the nearest doctor for help. And the second thing, or almost parallelly, across the world, across societal levels, they pray to their favorite God or to their own God. This is something, as Dr. Herbert Benson, the famous cardiologist in Harvard, has said, humans are wired for God. And if that is true, which Swami has been telling us, God is central to human life. And that is a big lesson that I learned all through my journey. And along with that was love. And so God is love, love is God, is the basic takeaway that the 50 years have given to me, and a chance and a beautiful opportunity by Swami to practice it not only during this 50 years of my married life as a grahastha, but also in the counseling program, and also to continue serving Swami till my last breath. Jai Sairam.
వీరు క్రిస్టియన్స్, వీరు ముస్లింలు, వీరు హిందువులు, వీరు పార్టియన్స్, వీరు ఈ విధంగా మనం భేదానికి ఒక అవకాశం అందించి కట్టకడబటికి మానవత్వాన్ని మనం నిర్మూలం చేసుకుంటున్నాం.
We don't understand this philosophy clearly, and we give ample scope for divisions, and we completely ruin, burn to flame the human value and the quality.
ఈనాటి మానవుడు మహనీయుల యొక్క జన్మదినోత్సవం మాత్రమే జరుపుకుంటున్నారు, కానీ మహనీయుల యొక్క ఆదేశాలను ఆచరణలో పెట్టడం లేదు.
Today we are celebrating the birthday of great people, but we don't follow their command.
కానీ మనము ఈ యొక్క జన్మోత్సవం జరుపుకోవటం గొప్పతనం కాదు.
There's nothing great in celebrating the birthday.
వారి యొక్క ఆశయాలను, వారి యొక్క ఆదేశాలను మనం ఆచరణలో పెట్టడానికి తగిన కంకణం కట్టుకోవాలి.
We should determine to translate into action, practice their teaching and ideals.
ఈ జీసస్ చెప్పినటువంటివన్నీ కూడాను సరి అయినవా కాదా అని అనేక విధములుగా కూడాను అనేక మంది పండితులు దీనిని పరిశోధన జరుపుతూ వచ్చారు.
Scholars started investigating the validity of this statement made by Jesus Christ.
అయితే ఇందులో చాలా 1530 సంవత్సరాల కిందట ఉండినటువంటి మ్యాటర్ అంతా ప్రోగు చేసుకుంటూ వచ్చారు.
They collected all the matter that existed prior to 1530.
ఇవి 530 లోపల ఒక ఇంగ్లాండ్ లోపల ప్రత్యేకమైనటువంటి ఒక బుక్ రాశారు.
All that was composed into one book there in England.
దానిని పెద్దదిగా ఉంటే అందరూ కూడా చూడగలరని చాలా చిన్న బుక్కుగా చేసి రష్యన్స్ బ్లాక్ ఓషన్ దగ్గర ఒక పెద్ద బిల్డింగ్ పెట్టి దాంట్లో పెట్టారు.
Russians made it a small book and kept there near the Black Sea in safe custody.
ఆ చిన్నదాని నుండే సమస్తము ఇమిడి ఉంటుండాలి.
In the tiny book, everything is written there.
ఇది ఆ బుక్.
This is that book.
దిస్ ఈజ్ ది బుక్.
This is the book.
This is the book.
This is the book, the Bible.
This is papers.
These are the papers you see from there.
ఇది ప్రధానమైనటువంటి చిహ్నం ఈ యొక్క గత్తులో ఉంటుండాలి. ఇది క్రాస్.
You find the cross on there, on the book.
ఇది సర్వ మతముల యొక్క సమన్వయాన్ని బోధించేటువంటి యొక్క పద్ధతి అని కూడా వారు నిరూపిస్తూ వచ్చారు.
They also proved the fact is the procedure to establish synthesis of all religions.
ఈ గ్రంథంలో ఉండినటువంటివి ఏ యొక్క బైబిల్లో కూడా లేవు.
All that present here is not present anywhere in the Bible.
ఇది చాలా నూతనమైనటువంటి యొక్క యేసు యొక్క చరిత్ర.
This is new, brand new story of Jesus.
భగవంతుని యొక్క విషయాలు తెలుసుకోవటము అందరికీ సాధ్యం కాదు.
It's not given to everybody to know the divinity.
అయితే భగవంతుని యొక్క తత్వం తెలుసుకోవాలంటే భగవద్భావమే మనలో ఆవిర్భవించాలి.
To know the divine, we should develop divine thoughts.
ఇందులో ఉండినటువంటి ఈ దారం, ఇది గుర్తుపెట్టిన దారం లోపల ప్రతి మతం నందు ఉండినటువంటి యొక్క సమన్వయాన్ని బోధించేటువంటి ఒక శ్లోకం ఉంటుండాలి.
Here you find the bookmark thread there. Every thread has got the text of every religion.
సర్వధర్మాం పరిత్యజ్య మాం ఏకం శరణం వ్రజ అహం త్వాం సర్వపాపేభ్యో మోక్షయిష్యామి మా శుచ అనేటువంటి భగవద్గీత యొక్క సారాన్ని ఈ యొక్క గుర్తు లోపల ఇమిడ్చి వచ్చారు.
Most important sloka of Bhagavad Gita is right present here in the bookmark.
అన్ని ధర్మముల యొక్క సారము ఒక్కటే.
The essence of all religions is one.
భగవంతునికి అర్పితము గావించడమే మానవుని యొక్క ప్రధానమైన కర్తవ్యము.
Surrender is the main duty of everyone.
సరెండర్ అనగా తాను భగవంతుడు ఒక్కటే అనేటువంటి ఏకత్వానికి రావాలి.
Surrender means the feeling of oneness. I and God are one.
కారణం ఏమిటి?
Why?
నీ యందున్నదే నా యందు, నా యందున్నదే నీ యందు ఉన్నది.
The reason is that the one present in you is
దేహములు
present in me.
భిన్నమైనటువంటివి,
Bodies are different.
కేవలం ఒక విధమైనటువంటి యొక్క బెలూన్లు వంటివి.
Bodies are like balloons.
ఇవి కేవలం ఒక బల్బుల వంటివి.
They are like bulbs.
ఈ బల్బుల లోపల ఉండినటువంటి కరెంటు అంతా ఒక్కటే.
The current passing through all these bulbs is one.
కలర్స్ డిఫరెన్స్,
There's difference in color.
వోల్టేజెస్ డిఫరెన్స్,
Voltage differs.
కానీ కరెంటు ఒక్కటే, ఆ దివ్యత్వం ఒక్కటే.
The current, divinity is one.
ఏకోహం బహుశ్యాం అది కూడా దీంట్లో ఉంది.
This book contains the important dictum saying that one manifests into
ఒక్క
many.
దైవమే సర్వుల యందు ఉంటున్నాడు.
Only one God is present in everyone.
ఈ ఉపాధి భేదమును పురస్కరించుకొని మీరు ఈ విధంగా కూడా కలహాలకు ముందంజ వేయకూడదు.
Never follow the differences basing on the differences of the body.
కలహములకు అవకాశమే లేదు.
There is no chance or scope for.
भजन बिना सुख शांति नहीं, हरि भजन बिना सुख शांति नहीं, हरि भजन बिना सुख शांति नहीं, हरि नाम बिना आनंद 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 नहीं, हरि भजन बिना शांति नहीं, हरि भजन बिना सुख शांति नहीं, जप ध्यान बिना संयोग नहीं, जप ध्यान बिना संयोग नहीं, प्रभु दर्श बिना प्रज्ञान नहीं, धर्म बिना सत्य कर्म नहीं, भगवान बिना कोई अपना नहीं, हरि नाम बिना परमात्मा नहीं, हरि नाम बिना परमात्मा नहीं, हरि भजन बिना शांति नहीं, हरि भजन बिना शांति नहीं, हरि नाम बिना आनंद नहीं, हरि भजन बिना, हरि भजन बिना, हरि भजन बिना सुख शांति नहीं।